and I'm going to give the woman a seed. And when she produces that seed, it's going to crush the head of the serpent. So never sleep on a woman who has a casket and a curse, because she also has a seed attached to her name.
If I see one more black female,
I'm not going to do shit at my expense.
we're black women. No, folks are going to do everything they can to distort her truth. Hard-working, highly educated, successful people who happen to be black.
The most disrespected person in America is the black woman. The most unprotected person in America is the black woman. The most neglected person in America is the black woman. To respect our women and to protect our women.
Like black women, we so tough all the time. God is real and God lives
inside of all of us.
Hello everybody, how are you guys doing? How are you guys feeling? I'm here to talk about what happened to Tamla Horsford. This story is absolutely insane, but honestly, before I get into the actual story and breaking down the details, I want to also start by saying this is the reason why a lot of people of color have fear going in certain neighborhoods and certain areas. Like, people want the best education for their children, people of color, black people in general, whether you're from Africa, whether you're from Asia, whether you're from black people all around the world, want the best education. And I think all people would like the best education for their children. But this channel is Black News, so we're going to get into the blackness of it all. Black people want to be able to exist in these nice neighborhoods, these neighborhoods where it's beautiful, where the lawn is mowed, or the environment is just absolutely amazing. The school system is wonderful. The resources are there. You want to be able to move in certain areas, right? And in a lot of cases, it's been unfortunate that the neighborhood is either owned or the entire majority or, of the people on that block are white. And, people of color do not feel comfortable in certain spaces because they have been hurt. There's been like a bunch of different stories where African American people come to the neighborhood and it's a Caucasian neighborhood and they end up losing their life. So African American people do not feel comfortable around a large amount of Caucasian people, and it's very, very heartbreaking, this entire situation, because this is why, hey, if I'm going somewhere, I have to look at my environment and say, hey, okay, who's all here? Okay, no, absolutely not. I could lose my life. This could be the end for me. And it's unfortunate that has to be, the mindset, but you have to be very careful in the spaces that you exist in. If you're a person of color, it is not safe for you to be around or exist in a space to where, one, you are the only person of color in the entire location, and two, you have not had anybody that that you're either related to or connected to, that if something could go wrong, you have to go in every situation thinking like, hey, if something was to go wrong, I have at least one person here that knows me and is aware of who I am, who would at least, be here to aid me. Do not set yourself or put yourself in places to where you are vulnerable and things can go wrong, and then you're at someone else's mercy, and even if people, you don't fully know someone well enough to be in their home, because when you're in their home, you're in their territory, in their space. Anything could go wrong, anything can happen. You're trusting your life with them at that point. In this situation, this is what happened to Tamla, in my humble opinion. I feel as though she was put in a position to where her defenses was gone. She had nobody there that she was related to or came from a home life, or a male that she existed with. She was taught to feel as though this is a safe environment, and absolutely was not. And she felt, maybe my kids go to school with these individuals. I have a certain perspective that I do not feel as though these people would harm me. And she got surprised and ended up losing her life senselessly. I'm gonna get into the story and tell you guys what occurred. Okay, so let's get into it. Now, I'm going to go over this article. This was actually written a while ago, but we're going to get into it, okay? Tamla died more than 3 years ago, despite the multiple attempts to piece together what led up to her death and investigators closing the case. her father said is still a puzzle with missing pieces. This case is just the beginning. Kurt St. Jor said, I have to know the truth. And I believe that's her father. 11 alive investigators analyzed hours of police interviews, hundreds of documents and scenes from the photos, like from the where all of this occurred. They have photos and like photos from the scene, as well as a newly released independent autopsy done by the Horsford family. It is all to better understand why Horsford family and close friends insist that even with all the information, the police narrative doesn't complete the puzzle. Two law enforcement agencies investigated how Horsford ended up dead at a friend's backyard. The county sheriff office responded to a 911 call on November 4, 2018. 2 years later, the GBI reopened the case. Now, both agencies came to the same conclusion. Horsford of Cumming, Georgia, got drunk at a party and fell from a balcony after everyone went to sleep. According to toxology reports, her blood alcohol levels was 2.238, nearly 3 times the legal limit. She had traces of marijuana, and just she had anxiety medication in her system as well. They said that she had just different things. They say she doesn't use any Xanax, so they don't understand why that was in her system. From the start, the Horsford family and friends expressed concerns about how authorities handled the investigation. The county deputies reportedly told them that it all just didn't make sense. Once they had access to the reports. Once the case was ruled an accident and closed, 11 alive investigators were able to request those same records. Horsford husband's attorney, Ralph, also released for the first time the full independent autopsy performed by medical examiner Dr. Adele Shaker. Basically, he said, I know this was a homicide. The family attorney says, the problem is I can't put it on anybody because I don't have a badge. So saying that he knows that it actually, that it was definitely a homicide, but he doesn't have any authority to rule it as that, even though all of the information goes to that. Michelle Graves made plenty of enemies by picking apart her friend's death investigation. She filed open records requests, hounded investigators with emails and questions, and called the credibility of those at the house at the night that her friend passed. I haven't been able to grieve her because I've been trying to fight for her justice for 3 years, Graves said. She wants to know why no one tried to roll Horsford over to render CPR, discovering her outside, not even the police. Who called off EMS, according to documents provided as part of the investigation. There was no effort whatsoever done to try to save this woman's life, Graves said. An ambulance didn't come, the homeowner recalled in a recorded interview with police. We just saw her come out in a body bag. The only one that is documented in the initial investigation to have touched Horsford's body is the homeowner's boyfriend. He declared her dead after touching or lifting her leg, depending on which report you read. There are questions about the timeline, who did what and when. But investigators said, however she died, it happened after 1:57. That's when, according to the security door alerts, the door opened to the upstairs porch, opened and never closed until her body was found. Witnesses said it makes no sense because that's shortly after the homeowner and remaining guests went to bed. Horsford wanted one last cigarette, but the family has raised questions about several door alerts leading to the garage just minutes earlier. Perhaps one of the party goers cleaning up. According to alerts, That door opened 17 minutes earlier at 1:40 a.m. And was also never closed. The person last to see Horsford alive said they walked to the front door together. That matches with the front door chime, the front door time of 1:47 a.m. She told the police she said Horsford gave her a hug and shut the door, but the woman's husband who came to pick her up said his wife came to the door alone. Both the GBI medical examiner report and the independent autopsy list the cause of her death as multiple blunt injuries. But Dr. Shaker, the forensic pathologist that examined Horsford's body after the GBI, said the dislocated wrist in the GBI report is actually a compound fracture. In the scene photos, one can see a bone sticking out near her right wrist. The injuries is significant because there was little blood found at the scene, raising questions about where the injury occurred and whether it happened before or after her death. What little blood can be found on the Horsford sleeve is on the opposite side of her injury. I think the cut is in the wrist was a post-mortem, said Horsford's father. I don't think she died with that cut. I think it was put there after the fact. It's a claim. Shaker's reports calling the injury in his report post-mortem or after death. So they're basically saying that this was done after the fact. The GBI lists a fracture in her spine. Shaker said that there isn't a fracture at all, but to him, what's most important is what the GBI medical examiner did not find. There is no evidence of any significant injuries to the skull and bones, their lawyer is saying. In a report, Shaker wrote that the absence of bruising to the broken bones in her skull raises the flag to the cause of death, basically saying that the fact that, there wasn't any bruising, it kind of changes things, because then that could not have been, the cause of her death, her falling. He's basically, pushing that narrative to say he doesn't believe that's the cause, but, it just doesn't make sense in his mind. In his report, Shaker wrote that the absence of bruising to the broken bones in her skull raises the red flag to the cause of death as fallen from the second story of the building. The GBI did not see a summary of Shaker's report, but never received a full copy. They received a summary, but they did not receive a full copy. Investigators asked for the document, but forensic different people were put in place, I'm going to say that, to not do so. The lawyer said that he didn't trust their investigations to simply hand it over. He pointed out that nothing stopped the GBI from issuing a subpoena to get it. Graves said beyond what could be studied after the fact, there are red flags just looking at the crime scene. They showed us the mulch and the rocks in the mulch, and showed where, she tripped and fell over this little garden border. Graves explained, recalling a visit to the house where Horsford died after police had cleared the scene. The homeowner said in a conversation with police she was trying to help the family by letting them see where Horsford died. She shared her own theory of what happened initially. The homeowner was so convinced Horsford didn't fall from the top floor balcony that she went on several social media to say so. In documents reviewed by 11 Alive, the lead detective Michael Christian echoed the theory, telling medical examiners the position of the body does not appear that she had fallen directly from the balcony, rather ground level. Even deputies at the scene seemed confused by her body position, so nobody could really say that based off of her body position that she truly had fallen. If you go to brace yourself with your left hand land and there ain't nothing to brace yourself with, you spin. You know what I'm saying? One deputy who responded to the scene commented, it doesn't make sense. It's kind of like a nosedive. Horsford was found lying flat face first, almost underneath the balcony. The police later ruled she fell from the balcony that she had fell from. And the position seemed even more odd to the homeowner and her boyfriend because they insisted both hands were by her side, palms up when they called 911. It's the weirdest thing. She was face down, but her arms were down like she just face planted is the best way to describe it. The owner said the GBI office asked if the Horsford's arms were down by her side. Yeah, by her side, palms up, the homeowner responded. Scene photos show her left arm is actually off to the side. It is bent and her palms is facing down with fingers curled under. 2 years later, one of the deputies had a moment of clarity and a possible theory of what happened. In his initial report, he wrote, "I saw what appeared to be a deceased female, so I went inside and started questioning people. He gave no indication he touched or interacted with Horsford's body, but when the GBI kept asking questions about Horsford's arm, he stated he did take her pulse and in the process may have moved her arm. You get all this information and you go, wait, nothing makes sense here." The family lawyer is saying there's so much here that touches or should touch everyone's heart. Physics and home detectives have offered up their own theories of what happened to the mother of five. After the initial case was closed, celebrities like Kim Kardashian, 50 Cent, and T.I. questioned the integrity of the investigation. They believe that despite the stereotypical yellow tape put up to protect the investigation, the scene was never treated like a crime. They point to the autopsy as one example. The GBI only took 5 photos, and usually this is like a low number. It's a very low number for a death investigation, according to experts. And 11 Alive consulted. So this 11 Alive is what all this information is coming from, and they're saying that for it to only be 5 photos is very low. According to GBI policy, the number of photos taken is at the discretion of the medical examiner and include the body bag, the descendant's remains, and identification photograph, and injuries. Their personal lawyers argue that Horsford's injuries alone should have warranted more than 5 photos, but what the GBI actually documented remains unknown. Their lawyer also is saying that he's never seen them, the photos. The GBI told 11 Alive, which is a news station, they told 11 Alive it is not subject to open records. Tamla was actually the person that they were investigating and not the perpetrators, basically said her father. Now, the county sheriff office did call all the people who attended the party back to the house shortly after the 911 call was made. While the party was planned as a sleepover to celebrate the homeowner's birthday, many left early. Okay, so earlier I said it was because of a football game. They were all on the same team, but actually this event was because of the homeowner's birthday. So that, I guess that's why all of this was happening. And so many people left early. While getting statements, police asked for photos and videos referred to the party that connected to the party that night, but they didn't ask to take any of the devices to download data, nor did deputies ever subpoena their phones for records. That did not happen until the GBI got involved. By that time, records show at least 2 people had new phones, and detectives learned that text messages and pictures on some of the other devices were gone. Horsford's family family suspects this is a new chapter in the Forsyth County history of radical tensions. Horsford was the only black woman at the party and the only one who would end up dead. In 1912, the county forced out all the black residents. Today, only 4% of the county's population is black, according to the U.S. Census data. Her family said that they believe this impacted the way deputies viewed the scene. This actually would make sense. The lead investigators on the case, Michael Christian, is accused of calling Horsford the porch lady and making derogatory racial remarks. I mean, it's horrific. The family's lawyer said the racist bigot, child, it's just been getting out of, this is just crazy. This is crazy. They said that the way in which she was spoken to was very disrespectful of her race and her gender, and they didn't appreciate it. Christian said that his comments was taken out of context, and that other deputies involved denied and have been offended by the accusation. Race aside, the officers who responded had connections with some of the people inside the house. The man who spoke with the police on the 911 call was a former probation officer who at the time worked in, the county court system in the office. On the body camera audio, one can hear one of the deputies walking another deputy through the different people at the scene. He mentions Jose, which works for them. We've got some mutual friends together. I've known Jose for a while. We're friends, the deputy is her saying on the video. One can also hear another woman from the party expressing concerns about getting to her new job on time. After explaining where she works, the deputy tells her, "I'm sure you're good because your boss is my wife." The GBI also caught a few of the partygoers in what appeared to be a series of lies. One woman diagnosed with a severe anxiety told police that her medication made it possible for her to lie, and that she is so dependent on her anxiety medication. She wore a necklace with the Xanax in it. She told investigators she understood it was a bit of it just seemed out of control. And it is a situation to where you should have that in control, and it is a controlled substance. But she would never share it with anyone. Now, although she did say this, the GBI subpoenaed the phones and, read some of her, the text messages. And they found evidence that the woman had indeed shared some type of medication at least twice with her friends prior to the party. And with one friend, one day of the Horsford murder, the death. I'm not going to say it's a murder, it's a death. This woman actively does share her medication and she lied. And then when confronted, the woman admitted it was true, but insisted she only shared her drugs because she know the woman well and she did not know Horsford. However, Horsford did have Xanax in her system the night she died, and no one knows why because she does not, partake in that. The county and the GBI closed the case. The agencies made peace with the inconsistencies and believed each question has a logical answer, or at the very least, the answers don't impact the outcome. As they've explained in the past. It's unclear what new evidence would come out of a new investigation after so much time has passed, but the family believes someone has yet to come forward. Even if Horsford's death was an accident, they believe that there's more to the story. They pray those who know have the courage to speak and finally give the family peace. The lawyer said that he intends to write up his own report about all the inconsistencies in the evidence, essentially, just giving his opinion, or just from what he's gathered, not even opinion, his educated opinion, and just from the entire case, do like a case on the like something written, just explain everything that he's found, because there's only much that he can do, so much he can do. He hopes that the information that he writes will lead to new leads and reform with the police system. The lead investigator, Michael Christian, lost his certification to work as a police officer. The high-profile nature of the Horsford's death led to several women to come forward, accusing Christian of just sharing scene photos and confidential information about this case or other cases with them. So a lot of people have spoken on his just him being just completely unprofessional.
A death investigation is like a puzzle.
This can't be real.
2 law enforcement agencies investigated piece by piece the death of Tamla Horsford. Both concluded she got so drunk at a party she fell from a balcony after everyone else had gone to sleep.
Girls' night, we were up just drinking and we played cards against humanity.
But her family insists that narrative doesn't solve the puzzle.
You get all this information and you go, wait, nothing makes sense here.
Rob Fernandez, the attorney for Tamla's husband, says he's gone through the evidence, every interview, document, and scene photo. So has Tamla's father and friends like Michelle Graves.
Why not just let this go? I cannot let this go because I know that what they said did not happen to her.
So we went through it all as well, to take you inside the investigation to understand why the family remains convinced police are still missing pieces to this puzzle.
I know this was a homicide. The problem is I can't pin it on anybody because I don't have a badge and I don't have a gun.
We also got access to something that is not in the GBI's report. For the first time, the family is making their independent autopsy public. In it, Dr. Adele Shaker says the dislocated wrist mentioned in the GBI's report is actually a compound fracture. And the fracture in her spine isn't a fracture at all. And to him, what is most important is what the GBI's medical examiner did not find.
There is no evidence of any significant injuries to the skull bones.
In Dr. Shaker's report, he says the lack of broken bones in Tamla's skull make him skeptical that she died falling from the second story of a building. Now, at first, deputies on the scene seemed to agree.
They showed us the mulch and the rocks in the mulch and showed where, she tripped and fell over this little garden border.
From the homeowner to the detectives, there are statements pushing back against the idea Tamla fell from the porch.
If you went to brace yourself with your left hand, there ain't nothing there to brace yourself with, and you spin, you know what I'm saying?
And even more unusual, how the homeowner and her boyfriend found Tamla's arms.
It's the weirdest thing. She was face down, but her arms were down she just face planted is the best way I can describe it.
So her arms were by her side?
Yeah, they were by her side, palms up.
It's a question we heard several times in the investigation because when you look at the scene photos, Tamla's left arm is actually off to the side, bent, her fingers curled under.
Did you ever touch her arm? No. Okay. Did you see anybody touch her? No, other than you? No.
To this day, police can't explain the discrepancies, at least not in a way that makes sense to the family. They say despite the yellow crime scene tape, Tamla's death was never treated like a crime.
Maybe she fell off the balcony, but she's stiff. Okay, is she breathing? I don't know if she's face down.
Forsyth County deputies called everyone that attended the sleepover back to the house for questioning. But it wasn't until the GBI got involved 2 years later that police searched for evidence on their phones. By that time, 2 people had new ones, and text messages and pictures from other phones were gone.
But an ambulance didn't come. We just saw her come out in a body bag.
No one tried to roll Tamla over to render CPR. Not even police, who called off EMS.
There was no effort whatsoever done to try to save this woman's life.
The only one we know who touched Tamla's body was the homeowner's boyfriend. He declared her dead after touching her leg.
I have one deputy that's about to pull into your subdivision. Then the destination is on your right.
Tamla's family believes race also played a role. The only black woman at the party in a county with few black people. The lead investigator on the case, Michael Christian, is accused of calling Tamla the porch lady and making derogatory racial remarks during the investigation.
I mean, that's horrific in the racist, bigoted, sarcastic, funny way of this sick son of
On top of that, some of the responding officers knew the people at the party. The man on that 911 call was a former probation officer who, at the time, worked in the county's court system. And another woman worked with an officer's wife.
I'm sure you're good because her boss is my wife. So, well, then you're more than good.
In the recordings, we heard police tell the family that when the investigation is complete, they can access all of the records, and the pieces will finally fit. But they don't.
Legally, this case is just beginning as far as I'm concerned.
I haven't been able to grieve her because I've been trying to fight for her justice for 3 years.
I have to know the truth.
So guys, after hearing all of this, honestly, this was a miscarriage of justice. This young woman, first and foremost, I feel as though she should have never been at that party in the first place. There was too much going on and not enough at the same time. There was no other black person at this party. And maybe this is the norm for, you know, where, especially like the time or the location and all of that. She's used to that, but I just personally would not feel safe or comfortable laying my head and going to sleep around so much people that are not of my skin tone. I just would not feel comfortable. There's too much that has went on in history, too much going on to where I would just completely leave my defenses, you know, just free to whatever happening. And just the way the entire situation was handled was wrong. I would sue if I was the family, sue the police. I'm suing everybody. I'm starting to GoFundMe, raise the money so I could sue everybody. Because at this point, you guys are playing with me. You see the inconsistencies. You see that this was a miscarriage of justice. Everybody's friends in this. And you hear people, you know, talking and being very friendly, and people saying they have to go to work so they could, you know, work or, you know, whatever. And the other person saying, hey, you work from my wife and all of that. Even the detective that's doing the investigation, all of that. People are being fired because they're sharing information on this case. Everybody's connected. It looked like these stories are not adding up. People hiding stuff and keeping things. Like, I would sue everybody, because if you guys don't want to talk, I'm suing the police department for not handling it properly, because you did not go towards protocol. There's a certain way that things are supposed to be done, and if you guys are not going to do it the right way, I'm suing everybody. Everybody's gonna get sued. If I was in this case, that's just how I would humbly handle it. I feel as though nobody cared about this young woman losing her life. I feel sorry for the family involved, and honestly, you know, this wasn't done right. These people were not protected, nothing. It breaks my heart that this is the outcome, because people do not deserve to go through things like this, in my humble opinion. But, you know, this is the world that we live in. This is the system. The system is rigged. The system is broken, and people don't care about people of color. I really don't feel as though she should have been even at that location or even comfortable to lay her head to say, I'm going to sleep, if that's even what occurred, because we don't even know what occurred. And then allegedly there was a back camera that all of a sudden was broken, and then she said, the owner of the house said, hey, it was broken because she had an ex-boyfriend that was she got the camera initially because she had an ex-boyfriend that was stalking her, but somehow, some way, the cameras, you know, is not working because, you know, they got that entire situation handled, so they disabled the cameras. All of this stuff, which sounds like baloney to me. Ain't where the street cameras? They don't have no cameras nowhere. It's just the boondocks in the middle of nowhere. There could be no camera footage. I just think it's just absolutely, like, just crazy. And the thing is, the fact that you had someone looking and you know, coming after you, but then your spouse is a, you know, a police detective, if that Jose is even her husband. It's just too much holes in this story, and too much you know, shoulda, coulda, wouldas. Nothing for sure. Everybody is just twisting the story. Things could have been this way, but people are going out of their way. I would check the cameras and see, hey, is the cameras really broken, or if it is, you know, is the remote really lost, and walk around the house a few times looking for specific things. And there's no way why they should be getting questioned. Yep, that's another thing. They got questioned at the house. Right after that, they got questioned at the house. When do people do questioning and all of that at the house? People go to the police station. These people bringing people back to the same place where the crime was committed to do the questioning is BS. It's showing that you didn't take this serious. Y'all, nobody took it serious. Y'all thought that people was playing and a life was lost. And it tells me that this has happened before, and people feel as though that can occur, that they can take this as a joke. This breaks my heart, and this was a miscarriage of justice. And I feel as though the police should not just leave situations like this uncovered or leave it just hanging like this. The family deserves justice, and if I was the family, I'm getting justice. I'm suing everybody involved, since you guys want to play with me and act as though this is not important. I'm so sorry that this had even occurred. My heart breaks for the father, the husband, them beautiful boys, that her, because she had children. It just, the entire situation is just crazy to me. But that's all I'm gonna say. You guys let me know what you think about what I'm saying. I love you guys, and bye bye.